defender. Soloniak fires, scores!
Welcome into Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank, the official bank of your Chicago Fire. Just for this week, I'm stepping in for Fred Hubner, as usual. The usual fellas hanging around, Frankie Klopas and Paul Tenorio. It's so good to have you with us, where it's always happy hour here at the Private Bank in Heineken Pub 97. And let's start with that humongous win Saturday over the Seattle Sounders. Frank, considering that it was against the defending champs, that they did it in an emphatic, thorough fashion. It was on national television. Can a win like that mean more than 3 points long term?
Yes, I believe so, because I think going into the match, it was such a big game, and we talked about it, Paul, because it's almost like they needed to win this game just to hold their spot. You know, that's how tight the race is in the East. But for me, it was much bigger than that, because there are moments and opportunities in the season, and I think this was one of them early on. You have national televised game, like you said. You have the defending champions coming in town, and you have a sold-out audience, you know, that you haven't had that in a long time. So there was a lot of excitement for the team, and it was crucial for them not only to get the 3 points, but put a good performance on. And I think they've been able to accomplish both of those objectives.
Yeah, it's all about changing the culture around the team. I think Dax McCarty talked about that when he was signed by the Fire. And his job, part of his job, was to change that culture within the locker room. But the job of the team is to change that culture outside of the locker room, in the fans, to make them want to come watch this team play. And this was one of those moments where you hope, if you're the Fire, that it's that moment where things start to turn, where the expectation is there to win games, to win big games, to put on good performances, even against some of the best in the league. They still have to now make it happen, right? They got a big win, and it could be a big deal. It could be a turning point. But you don't know if it's a turning point until the next few games happen and you see whether that change did occur.
Yeah, and I think, Pano talked about it afterwards. There were a lot of smiles at the stadium with people leaving. I agree with him 100%. There's smiles on this couch today. It was exciting, and I think that games like that, they're big moment games where I think that players look forward to. They relish, especially the players that they brought in. And I think that, when you look at in the end of the day, the performances of the individuals, I don't think that you can look at any guy and you can just say, well, he had an off night tonight. I think it was a great team performance. They took advantage of an opportunity in front of a packed stadium. They played great soccer, especially the second half, and it was a great win. And I think I agree with Paul. Now it's important to continue that in the game coming up, I think, tomorrow night, because, you're not going to have the same kind of atmosphere of build-up to the game. And I think this game even becomes that much more important, to make sure that there's no letdown.
Yeah, let's look at some of those beautiful highlights from against Seattle this past Saturday. As Veljko Paunovic said, the smiles are back in Bridgeview in Chicago, but first 15 minutes, there was some nervy moments, but then in the 25th minute, Nemanja Nikolic draws the penalty on Alfaro.
And then you just see it here, this long ball, and obviously very casual clearance there by Jones, and then Nikolic always there to jump on that loose ball, and obviously, they make him retake that PK. They called encroachment. I don't know. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But then he puts that one away.
This has been a little bit of an issue for the Fire this year, conceding a goal minutes after scoring one, and that's what's happened here. Long distance, it's Clint Dempsey with his fourth of the year.
Yeah, it's so important just to focus and concentration. Right when you score, you can relax, and I think that's what they did here. A little too much space for Dempsey between the lines, late to step in, and equalizer there.
And here at the hour mark, young Drew Connor doing a good job keeping possession going forward.
Yeah, I mean, for me, what stands out is Michael Delue's work rate in this game. I mean, this is what he brings to the table. He's very, very smart in his runs and his movement. Even here, watch how he supports Drew Connor, gets in the right spot, gets the ball, plays the right pass, and then immediate movement again and sets up the goal. I thought it was one of his best performances of the year.
David Acom there at the finish, then making it 3-1 in the 73rd minute. Paul, I know you would have liked to see this more last year. Brandon Vincent getting forward.
He's a guy who has absolutely improved a ton this season. He's young, so you hope to see that, and you expect that a bit, but can't say more about his growth.
I know Nelson Rodriguez and Veljko Paunovic would like to see more of this from Kappelhoff going forward and possessing the ball, and it leads to the fourth and final goal.
That's a great run, and sometimes it's so hard to track a center back that comes forward, but just a little movement also by Acom, recognizing, pulling away at defender. He's open to get it, and then obviously getting the ball and finding Nikolic. And what a great addition he's been to the team.
First 4-goal output in 3 years for the Chicago Fire. Bastian Schweinsteiger and Veljko Paunovic celebrating. So now take advantage of these positive spirits right now and beat a winnable team Wednesday in Colorado.
Yes, on paper, yes, but that's the thing that we talk about. Sometimes these are the games that you need to win. And then the Fire are the better team. I think the important thing is that with the veteran guys and the guys that have that experience, to make sure that there is no letdown in this match. You need to win this game. You don't have to play pretty soccer. The only thing that matters is getting the 3 points.
And I think sometimes in these moments, in these games, you need things to happen your way. And it happened with the penalty kick. I don't think it was a penalty kick on the foul on Nikolic. I certainly don't think there was any reason to retake the kick. Doesn't matter. It happened. They punished him for it, and then they took the game over from there. Seattle will feel hard done from that, but they know they could have changed the game in the second half, and they didn't. And now you move forward, like Frank said, the Fire have to capitalize in a Wednesday night game where there won't be that same energy.
Well, it should be fun this Wednesday. Don't forget the Chicago Fire taking on the Colorado Rapids. When we continue here from Heineken Pub 97, though, we'll also delve a little deeper into that 4-1 win over the Seattle Sounders and get you ready for the next upcoming matches, too. We mentioned a home date tomorrow night, the Chicago Fire Pride Night, hosting the Colorado Rapids. As Fire Weekly will continue here from Heineken Pub 97, presented by the Private Bank, the official bank of your Chicago Fire, as Colorado coming off of a win that snapped a losing streak. Hopefully the Fire put it back on the canvas again.
Heineken tastes perfect every single time, and that doesn't happen by accident. It takes 15 years to become a Heineken brewmaster, almost as long as it took me to master this look.
She came to meet a man. She found an angel. What's his name now?
Still practicing. It takes 15 years to become a Heineken brewmaster. There's more behind the star.
The heat will wear you out real quick. And we've been through some hot ones. It's very physical. You gotta take care of your body and stay hydrated because every moment matters. That's why I drink Advocare Hydrate. I've got a job to do.
John, you're home.
What's going on?
It's this paint. Valspar Reserve. Nothing stays on the wall. Not anything. Not any of these things, John.
Right, Valspar Reserve. Super stain resistant and scrubbable.
And this color, still perfect.
Yeah, looks great, Val. How much coffee have you had?
3 cups. 4.
Valspar Reserve Paint and Primer with Hydrochroma technology. Now the colors you love stay the colors you love. Exclusively at Lowe's.
Yeah, I mean, these are big games for the club. I mean, national television, sellout crowd, bright lights, night game. These are games that players should dream of, and these are games that you should thrive in. You should really want to play in these big games. And like I said, after the first half, I thought we were pretty dangerous. I mean, we created some good chances on the break, but we didn't play that well. And we came in the locker room, we regrouped, we changed a couple things, and we came out and we showed character. We showed a little bit of attitude, and that was something that I think this team needs to get better at. We need to continue, and if we would have come out of the locker room against LA and played like we did in the second half tonight against LA, we would be walking off that field in LA with 3 points and feeling pretty good about ourselves right now. So we still have a long way to go, no question about it. Like I said, I mean, we're still learning. We're still learning on the fly how to win, and that's something that only comes with going through tough games like tonight.
Well, Dax McCarty's post-match analysis, always so spot on, the experienced one, but he touched on it there. The big difference from the last game against Seattle and the road loss versus Los Angeles was the second half. What did you see the difference in the second half in that 4-1 win?
Yeah, and we talked about it, I think, this last week. I think there are moments in the game, you're winning 2-0. I think there are moments where their momentum, they change momentum in the game. And I think in that LA game, yes, the one thing is that LA stepped up the pressure. The intensity was up. They're losing 2-0. They made some changes, and I think they pressured a lot harder. There was a bigger commitment to close down a lot quicker, players with the ball. But I think there were moments when the Fire had the ball. I think their ability now to keep it, to manage the game in a better way, not forcing it in situations where you keep turning the ball over and then the pressure is on you. They dropped a little bit deep, and then I think there was a loss of concentration because through 2 set pieces, you let them back in the game. I think that's a lesson they learned, taking into this next match.
Well, Frank, I think one thing about this league that we've talked about a lot is there's not a huge difference between the teams. Even between the first place team and the last place team, on any given night, that last place team can win. And that sets this league apart from a lot of leagues around the world. And so as a part of that, I think that there is an element where it's not just about ability, technical, tactical. It's also about energy. Sometimes you have to have the right energy to survive in a game. And I thought there was a letdown in LA in the second half where the Fire, they didn't have enough energy to match what LA came out with. And that can swing a game. And it was important in this Seattle game that they came out in the second half and they took the game to Seattle at home. And I thought that difference in energy, in pace of play and movement, in just wanting to be in the game was a big difference between a 4-1 win and a 2-2 draw.
I think it's huge. You touch on a good point. I think because energy, everything starts with that. To have the energy, to have the intensity, because even the lack of concentration when you drop that, it comes from energy. So I think when you get a little bit fatigued, when you're chasing the game, I think that happens. And I agree with you, but I think when you look at this game, I think that they stayed very compact. Other than the beginning, first 10, 15 minutes where I think they gave Seattle some space, and now they were dangerous. I think they stayed more compact, and I think they did the one thing they do very well is that they're very good in transition, and then I think they created a lot of opportunities through that. But then also when you saw that goal, I think their ability to move the ball in the attacking third of the field, the play you talked about, with Drew Connor goes to the right side, he gets the ball, there's a good build-up, there's good movement, and then to finish it off. So it's like getting that second goal, for them at home, and then getting the crowd back into it. I think that was a positive.
And when you talk about energy and you talk about desire in certain moments of the game, I think you have to look at both teams. And there were moments in that second half where I thought Seattle were poor, where there were individual mistakes in defending. And those mistakes were punished by the Fire, and they led to goals. Jovan Jones had some moments where he just had some mental letdowns defensively, or he didn't chase and cover in certain key moments. And credit to Chicago, they punished those moments. But I thought that was a key part of what happened to Seattle.
And I think as good as he is going forward, because you can look at before the game and you say, here's a guy that has 5 assists going forward. For me, in a game like the other night, I think he cost them 3 goals because he got ball watching, even in the PK, poor turnover. I think that was an area where when he went over, I think the Fire in transition were able to expose that space that he left behind, but also centrally, because I think when Roldan is in the middle with Alonso, I think it's a little bit better, and then they cover those wide areas better together. So I think there's more freedom for him to get forward. And I think with Alonso and Svensson, as the game went on, they were pushing the game. There were big holes centrally and out wide that the Fire were able to expose in transition.
Frank, watching Schweinsteiger and Paul too, we see him move around in different places in the midfield. Do you have a preferred spot watching the German where he's most effective?
I'm not lying to you. I watched the game like 3 or 4 times, and I think maybe he had turned the ball over once. And I think he's very smart, the way he moves, to create overloads in certain areas of the field. We talked about it. I think the second half tactically, they made a change. He played up a little bit higher, but he still drifts wide. His timing and his ability to see where the space is and create overloads is a key, but also his ability to play balls that are not predictable. The ball comes, his back is turned, and he can see everything. And I think with one ball now he leads, a counterattack. He keeps possession. He doesn't force the ball, I think. So that's been the key.
Yeah, I think for me, part of that too is when you look at the way the team lined up against Seattle, they had players who are capable of stretching the field on the field. You have Soloniak, you have DeLu, you have Akam, and you've got a player in Schweinsteiger and a player in Dax capable of rewarding those runs. And that, I think, was a big difference, and I think it's going to lead to some interesting decisions for Veljko Paunovic down the stretch.
Well, speaking of rewards, Drew Connor's been rewarded with some starts at right back the last couple of matches. When we continue here on Fire Weekly, we'll talk to young Drew Connor and talk more about this Chicago Fire team that is getting ready to host the Colorado Rapids tomorrow night at Toyota Park. 7:30 kick. The men in red go for their home win again, coming off of that Seattle victory. As this is Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank, the official bank of your Chicago Fire, as the men in red trying to take advantage of that big 3-goal win and bring that positive energy to home this Wednesday when they host the Colorado Rapids.
Welcome to Elk Grove Village. Our growing industrial park is the largest in North America. It makes sense. We're close to O'Hare, major highways, and rail lines, putting us first class in business class. We appreciate that a strong business park means a high quality of life for village residents. It's what motivates us to be beyond business friendly. Elk Grove Village, makers wanted.
Tired of paying hundreds more a year in taxes and fees for your unlimited plan? Only T-Mobile gives you unlimited data with taxes and fees included. That'll save you hundreds. Get 2 lines for $100. That's right, 2 lines of unlimited data, $100 all in. And right now, we're giving you even more. For a limited time, get a free Samsung Galaxy S8 when you buy one. That's 2 Galaxy S8s for the price of 1, plus 2 lines of unlimited data for $100. Taxes and fees included. Only at T-Mobile.
My best-selling Grayson Sofa and Love Seat. Contemporary style, 8 oversized toss pillows, comfortable Bobopedic memory foam seating, only $7.99. You can't get any better than that.
Yes, you can. Add a pair of lamps, only $80. Cocktail table and 2 matching end tables, only $199. Add them all up. A great value at only $10.78.
Buy them together and get my package deal price, all 7 pieces, only $9.99. Untouchable and only at My Bob's Discount Furniture.
Mariah Haberman here from Discover Wisconsin. Join me and the rest of the DW crew every week on this station for all things Wisconsin. Find us on social media right now for gorgeous photos and great Wisconsin giveaways. Speaking of free stuff, did you know every month we give away an exciting vacation? This month you can win a prize package to Oconto County. Just visit discoverwisconsin.com for details. Saturday mornings at 10 on Comcast Sportsnet.
Welcome back to Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank, the official bank of your Chicago Fire. It's good to have a Chicago Fire Academy product, and now a member of the starting 11, Drew Connor, joining us. And Drew, you're pretty hard on yourself like most athletes, so we'll get right to the chase. How would you rate your performance so far at right back?
Not bad, especially, coming from the center midfield. First 2 starts, I thought my performance in LA, was pretty good. I'd probably give it about a B, B+. Last game, maybe like a B-.
Yeah, Drew, I played fullback growing up, and I could never have stepped into the middle of the field and done the duties of a central midfielder. What has that transition been like? What's been the thing that threw you off most, and what's been the part that's been surprising about the right back position for you?
Yeah, I think when I was making the transition, it was kind of like a little bit awkward being, deeper on the field and receiving the balls back there. But at the end of the day, it's still soccer. And now I've kind of realized, when you get the ball as a center mid, you're kind of working with, the 360 pressure from all angles, and, receiving the ball at the right back spot, you kind of have the whole field in front of you. It's a little bit easier to, pick out passes. You have a little more time.
No, but that's what I was going to say. Centrally, when you played, there's so much going on.
Right.
On the right side, I think, you see the field. I think you're more involved in the game. But did you play in the preseason a lot on the right side, or was it just short term now that they said, okay, let's see if we can try Drew out there? Did you do a lot of training?
I actually, in preseason, I never slotted into that position. A lot of people thought when we scored that preseason goal against against Miami.
Miami, yeah.
Yeah, that I was playing right back, but I was actually playing center mid and dropped into that right back slot and went forward. So, yeah, I got a bunch of texts about that goal, like, oh, dude, you're playing right back and getting forward. But no, I was actually playing center mid.
I was going to say that's what stuck out in my head of preseason is you started that attack on the right-hand side and made that run like 80 yards through the middle of the park. And I just assumed that had been them trying you out in anticipation that this might happen.
Right. Well, maybe that gave them a little bit of an idea.
No, I was going to say, what adjustments, like what's been the biggest adjustment for you? Coming from, I mean, obviously didn't play a lot last year, but I think the USL games that you went to, I think were a big help to you.
Absolutely.
To your game.
Absolutely.
What's been the biggest adjustment at the next level for you that you had to transition?
I mean, I would say as far as like playing right back, it's holding that line. You know, that's something that I had never done previously. So kind of, you know, when to step, when to drop. So I think I've done a pretty good job of that with you know, talking with Johan and Zhao and, you know, kind of holding that line. But just like professional soccer in general, I mean, the speed of play. You know, I know it's cliche and I know everyone says it, but it's definitely true.
The fullback position has changed a lot in modern soccer over the last 5 years. We see fullbacks getting forward, and a big part of what a team does attacking-wise. You're capable of doing that. We saw that on the goal here where you combined with Michael DeLue to create the goal the other night. How much are you kind of learning the balance of when to go and when to stay, especially considering you're just 2 games into that position?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a balance. I think what I kind of look for is when players need support. So in that situation, Michael had the ball. I rolled up the line, you know, to help. And then, you know, it was time for us to combine. And in those situations in the final third, it's, you know, you don't train that. It's kind of up to the players to improvise and do what comes naturally to them, which you know, I did in that situation. So I think that's kind of been my cue, is to roll up when guys, you know, need help. But I think as I get more comfortable in that position, I'll start overlapping and things of that nature.
I'll tell you, there was a play in the first half, and that's why I love this guy, because I know he's got that bite in him, you know. I think there was a play in the first half. It was a loose ball, and Alonso's going to it, and you're committed. You go in, and you make a hard challenge, you know. And then sometimes you don't see enough of that, you know, because there are moments in the game where, you know what, when you need to go on a hard tackle, you do it, and I know you bring that, but you're a good soccer player also. So it was great for me to see that commitment of you early on, to close down and make that hard challenge.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, part of my game where maybe the coaches think that I could, you know, play in that right back position, is they see that tenacity as well as, you know, the skill on the ball to keep it.
Well, it's not like he hasn't had challenges in his first couple games. I mean, he goes to LA, they're a winger-heavy team out there. You match up against guys like Boateng, and then coming to Seattle, Jovan Jones running at you, you know, one of the fastest players in the league, definitely the fastest left back in the league. So the challenges have been there from the off. And then he chooses to go get stuck in on who? Ozzy Alonso, a guy a lot of guys probably shy away from in a 50-50 situation. So
I loved it. Set the tone early, you know? Set the tone early. That's for me.
Do you feel like you had those tests early on? Do you feel a little bit more confident in yourself, considering some of the guys you've matched up with in the early going?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, it wasn't easy. You know, the first 2 games coming into the first 2 starts, and you look at the other team's left flank, you know, pretty stacked. So, I mean, it was a good challenge. You know, I did my best with it. And
well, for me, there was a moment in the first game where you stepped to Jovan early and he goes by you with speed. The second time I saw you step and kind of drop off and say, you're not going to do that to me again. How has that learning process been, and what has been maybe the biggest lesson you've learned of how to approach guys in those situations?
Yeah, I mean, I remember that play. It was like the first 5 minutes of the game, and man, that guy's fast. But I think it was more of my timing on getting out to him. I think I was a little bit late getting out to him in that play, which forced me to kind of press him too fast and allowed him to go by me. So I think, like, I watched video today with Marco, and I think in that situation, had I left my spot like maybe a second or 2 earlier, I could have slowed up and been able to stay with him. So things that, you know, I'm still learning on the way.
We'll keep chatting with Drew Connor when we continue here from the Private Bank and Heineken Pub 97. As Drew Connor and the Chicago Fire getting set to take on the Colorado Rapids this Wednesday night. A crucial home match as they try to keep those positive vibes going after the resounding 4-1 victory over the Seattle Sounders. Come celebrate. It's Pride Night as well at Toyota Park, as we'll continue on the other side with Drew Connor.
give up. We don't quit. We keep going. Day in, day out. We fight on. Why? Because we are champions. Be a champion.
Don't let pain knock you out of the ring. Our hand, wrist, and elbow experts are pioneers worldwide. You need us in your corner. Midwest Orthopedics at Rush. Make an appointment today. After our minimally invasive spine surgery, 80% of golfers maintained or improved their handicap. Be treated by the pros to play more like a pro. Midwest Orthopedics at Rush. Make an appointment today.
Welcome back to Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank, the official bank of your Chicago Fire. Hunkered down here inside Heineken Pub 97 with the usual fellas and the newest star of the show, young Drew Connor. And Drew, I think a lot of times we forget, we being the media, the sacrifice that professional athletes make, not just today, but in their younger years. And I heard a good story about you. It was junior year. You had an opportunity to go to prom. A senior had asked you to go to prom. And the problem is, though, you're playing for the Chicago Fire Academy, and you had a game at 10 a.m. the next day in St. Louis, and you approached Larry Sunderland, the Academy director, about the dilemma. And maybe you could take the story over from here, what Larry said and what ensued the rest of the night.
Yeah, well, I mean, I still give a lot of credit to Larry for my youth development, but that guy was pretty hard. So I was very scared going to him, asking him if I could, go to prom and still make the game the next day. And he was like, what are you going to marry this girl? Yeah. What are you going to I didn't really know what to say. My dad called them. They kind of worked it out. So I was able to do both. But, hats off to my dad for driving me through the night to St. Louis, still making the game on time and beating Scott Gallagher in the morning. So I'll never forget that.
Well, now, was that as scary, though, as meeting Frank Klopas when you were just a little fella? I believe we have a picture of you and Frank from back in the day, and there's there's two good-looking young soccer players.
Yeah. Wow, is that Frank? I can't tell. The hair looks too dark. I don't know.
Who's this guy talking to my left? Is this Paul shaving his beard? I don't even recognize this guy.
No, my dad's favorite restaurant is Greek Islands over in Greektown near West Loop, and he used to take me out there all the time as a kid, and we would always see Frank there, and we'd be sitting near him, and my dad would go, come on, let's go talk to him. Let's go talk to him. No, Dad, no. So, he brought me over. I think it was like my first year in the academy. I was like 14. He brought me over to the table, and Frank was with some friends, and he was kind of, giving me some tips and stuff.
Well, for me, it was great because I watched Drew play when he was younger, those 14 days with the academy, and he was, I saw at least back then, that he was head and shoulders above the rest, and that he had not only the quality, but he had the drive, inside of him, and you can see that in the game. So it's great. It's almost like a dream come true. It was for me. I know when I play, it must be the same for you. But I wanted to talk a little bit. What was it like, knowing that you're gonna play in this game? You're playing against, Seattle, national televised game, sold out game. What's going through your mind the night before, and then how many tickets you got to get to make everyone happy here?
I had to get a lot of tickets. The pregame was a bit hectic trying to get the tickets together, but it was really exciting, man. It was really exciting. I knew probably two days beforehand that I was going to get the start. Just knowing it was going to be on TV at home. Rumors were that it was going to be a sold out crowd, and I haven't been to a sold-out Toyota Park game since maybe 2010, that Eastern Conference semifinal that went to PKs against Real Salt Lake. I was at that game with all my high school buddies. It was really exciting. And the night before the game, I just tried not to think about it too much. It was hard not to think about it, but you just kind of try and push those nerves away. And once you get on the ball the first couple times, it just all comes natural.
And we were talking in the segment before you came on about you had this big night game, national TV, defending champions, sold out crowd. The energy was there. You get a huge win. Tomorrow night you play. It's a midweek game. It's Colorado, bottom of the table. Maybe not as much of that kind of excitement around the game. How do you guys make sure you maintain a certain level and keep the momentum going forward?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that, they're back-to-back games, I think helps us as far as momentum goes. But these are the games you have to get up for. I mean, this one is just as important as the last, and we have to build on that win.
Seeing guys like occasionally like Jermaine Jones or Clint Dempsey across the field last Saturday, do you at times ever catch yourself being starstruck prior to a match?
Not really, but when myself and Dempsey went up for that header and I kind of knocked him down and helped him up, there was kind of a weird moment where I was helping up. I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird.
I saw that. I was watching the tape again, and then you went in and picked him up, and he gave you the hand. Sometimes as forwards, I said, forget it. This guy keeps me. I'm giving him my hand.
Well, there might be some moments, I imagine, in your own locker room or at training the first time Bastian Schweinsteiger walks in that you say, if you didn't already know you're a pro soccer player, when a guy like Schweinsteiger's on your team, it's that moment of recognition, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But he was just so cool and warm towards all of us. So the adjustment was pretty quick with him. But definitely my first year, I mean, having watched David and a lot of these guys who've been on the team for a while, when you first jump in preseason, you're kind of looking at me like, man, I'm playing with these guys now,
Who talks the most in the back there, or is it Dax and Schweinsteiger in the middle? Is there someone, that's kind of the leader there in the back line that's kind of helped you in these 2 matches that you started?
Lamson's been great, and Johan's been next to me. So Johan probably talks to me the most out of anybody.
I would have never figured. He's been so quiet. This guy, I would have said, that's the one guy I would have said, there's no way,
No, he does. Okay. You can't hear him, but, I can hear him out there, so.
Well, the good thing that Drew can know, if you ever want some more tips from Frank Klopas, just go to the same exact table of Greek Islands.
Yeah, he'll be there.
And he'll be there.
He needs no tips. The kid has worked extremely hard, and for me, I think he's been rewarded, and the coach has shown tremendous confidence in him, playing him and starting him in 2 really difficult matches, in LA and in this game. So I think, that's all the confidence he needs.
Appreciate it.
Drew, thanks so much for the time. It's cool to see you go from Chicago Fire Academy product to University of Wisconsin and now starting on the big stage, and hope you remain there a long time.
Thank you, guys. I'm very grateful for the opportunity and hope I can keep it up.
Can't wait till Wednesday, and this upcoming Saturday is the Chicago Fire getting ready for their final home match before they jump away on a quick road trip this weekend against DC United. Be sure to come out to Toyota Park this Wednesday. That's tomorrow, Pride Night, Colorado Rapids. Visit Toyota Park, and we'll continue here from Heineken Pub 97 and Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank, the official bank of your Chicago Fire.
Fall is back in Chicago, and Wrigleyville Sports has everything you need to cheer on the reigning World Series champs. Browse our massive selection of brand new hats, t-shirts, and souvenirs. Rock the same jersey as your favorite player, or let us customize one for you. And there's still time to get your hands on World Series champions gear. Whether you're on your way to the bleachers or cheering from home, Wrigleyville Sports is your one-stop shop for everything Cubs. Come see us at 959 West Addison, across the street from Wrigley Field, open 7 days a week, and 24/7 on WrigleyvilleSports.com.
In case you need anything, just give me a call.
P.O. Box 17. Of course I'm a real company.
You got the area code.
Everything your customers see tells a story. Let the UPS store help you tell the right one. From business cards and banners to expertly packed shipments to mailboxes with a real street address. Come in today for help.
CD Peacock, turning moments into memories since 1837.
Climb over the wall, break down all the
Whatever you're getting ready for, come into Supercuts. We pay attention to every detail and then finish with our signature hot towel, so you feel clean, sharp, and not just ready, but super ready. Save time by checking in with our mobile app or at supercuts.com.
Welcome back to Fire Field Vision, powered by NovaCares. We'll continue to talk more about that incredible victory over the Seattle Sounders. We've already talked about it a little bit, gentlemen, but what else impressed you about the 4-1 result?
I mean, a lot, but I think that I think the Fire were still great, and I think they're an excellent team in transition. And I think every time I think that they stay more compact, and then they let the other teams push the game. And then once they win it, now they have the ability and the movement and the pace, especially the last game when you played at Com. You had Soloniak, you had DeLu and Nikolic, and then the ability of Schweinsteiger and Dax, through that movement to pick the right pass out of the back. I think they are deadly.
Yeah, a lot of times people talk about possession numbers and possession stats, and I'm a possession guy as well, but this is a team that's capable of beating you in transition. That's the theme that we'll show in these clips here, and it's not too big of a surprise. It's what Dax McCarty did with the Red Bulls. They were a counter-pressing team. It's about being able to find the right passes at the right time, and I think that was a theme that came out multiple times in this game. So let's take a look at some of the clips from this Seattle-Chicago game. And we'll see. Look at this pass right off the bat from Dax McCarty. That is a pass that beats two lines of Seattle defenders, and it sets up a great opportunity for the Fire. That's the kind of pass that Dax McCarty has used his entire career.
And then again, I think Seattle is in a low block here, and it's all about the movement. I think Nikolic's ability to draw both center backs, and then the recognition of Vakam and the ability of Dax to make that pass was fantastic. And obviously here, quick transition. I think that Seattle gets caught sleeping a little bit, and a common pace is deadly.
And again here, you see the Fire. Schweinsteiger picks up the ball, turns, and immediately they're in transition again. David Akam's speed, and Nikolic with a great run in between the center backs, just not able to finish it with his left foot. But what was the theme in all four of those clips that we saw of those moments, those opportunities? It's about transition play. It's about the passing ability of Dax McCarty, of Bastian Schweinsteiger. When you win the ball, you get your head up and you look for those runs in the movement. And I think a big difference for this team this season has been, or in the last couple of weeks, when you put players on the field that are capable of making those vertical runs to be available for those passes, it changes the team. David Akam, he can do that. Lucho Soloniak, he can do that. I think Nemanja Nikolic is becoming much better in his vertical movement than he was when he first arrived in MLS. He was a pure box striker. He's starting to recognize that type of movement will get him on the ball more often. And then I think Michael DeLu coming into the team is another guy with very, very smart movement, and it's rewarding this transition play. It's rewarding the passing ability of Dax McCarty and Bastian Schweinsteiger.
No, I agree with you. And then I think the one thing with Nikolic, and we saw in that clip, his ability and with his movement to occupy both center backs, and then the recognition on that play was Akam, that saw the space. He made a diagonal run. I think his touch could be better. But what his ability to see the space, make the run, and then obviously the delivery to be there. But I think those four players, and then their ability they're so dynamic. They're hard, their movement, their understanding is getting better. You have guys now with the quality to make those passes. Both outside backs, we both saw Vincent now join up. They get wide, they provide that width. Their ability now when there's pressure, you can play balls back to them, they can keep it. But I was happy, Paul, to see, the goal with Drew Connor, because they're good on transition, but their ability now when Seattle dropped low and their ability to move the ball, I think was the key, because I think that, I think we see early on in games like this, and I think that still at moments where defenders let players go, they don't track runners, but as the season goes on and the games are more meaningful, and now or when you're in the playoffs, I think their ability to attack a team that plays in a low block and move the ball quicker and create those spaces. And I think that, I'm telling you, Nikolic, for me, maybe he's not the biggest guy, but he's got very good feet. And that's where I disagree with Wallman. He says he's not good with his back to goal. Well, he doesn't have to play and hold two defenders up. He moves. Technically, he's good. He can combine. He can lick up play. And then he's always looking to move and make those runs in the box.
Well, we talk about being able to play and beat teams different ways. That's very important, especially in this league where it's so hard to win on the road. And when you talk about the playoffs, an ability to play two different ways is a big part of that. You look at the Red Bulls. That's why I think that they lost to Montreal. Montreal was able to sit deep and beat you on the counterattack. on the road, and then also to be able to play with the ball and Piatti at home. And I look at this Fire team, and I start to think there are some similarities there where the strength of this team is in transition, and maybe the best form of this team attacking-wise is the way it lined up against Seattle, where you have Delu, Solonyak, Akam, and Nikolic on the field at the same time. What does that mean? Well, that means that you're looking at Dax McCarty, Juninho, Schweinsteiger, and only 2 of those players can be on the field. Maybe there's some interesting decisions to be made here about when you're on the road, you use those 3 in the central midfield to be on the ball more, to try to slow the game down. When you're at home and teams are dropping deep on you, and then to be able to attack, to go with more of an attacking team in games where you are on the front foot. I think there are some chances to play differently depending on who you're playing, the situation, where you're playing. You start to now have options if you're Veljko Paunovic, and some tough decisions to make as well.
I agree, and I think that there's different characteristics and quality of players, and I think Pano's always talked about being tactically adaptable to different situations, and I think that's what we've seen, because even in this game, they switched tactics the second half. They even made a move at 2-1. They played with 5 in the back, 5-3-2. So I think that the team has been able to learn from these tactical changes and made them a lot better.
Frank, quickly, you score goals for a living because of the hot start from Nemanja Nikolic. Should his goal right now be a golden boot in the 20 to 25 goal range at the end of the season?
Listen, for me, I think that when I look at it right now, I think, this guy is a goal scorer that the Fire have not seen in a very long time. And I think his potential, I think you have a team that's playing for him. He's got the quality to finish those chances. I think for me, he can score over 20 goals. I don't want to say a number because, listen, he could easily have had over 10 goals now.
Yeah, it's a good time of the year to get greedy watching the Fire. Nemanja Nikolic scoring some goals as they will continue this Wednesday hosting the Colorado Rapids. Come out to Toyota Park. It's Pride Night. 7:30 kick, one of the first late kicks of the season as the temperatures begin to warm. And stick with us here from Heineken Pub 97 as Fire Weekly, presented by the PrivateBank, the official bank of your Chicago Fire.
What's more powerful than the winds of a Cat 5 hurricane? An Echo backpack blower. So, yeah, it'll clear a path. Power on and on.
John, you're home.
What's going on?
It's this paint, Valspar Reserve. Nothing stays on the wall. Not anything. Not any of these things, John.
Right, Valspar Reserve. Super stain resistant and scrubbable.
And this color, still perfect.
Yeah, looks great, Val. How much coffee have you had?
3 cups. 4.
Valspar Reserve Paint and Primer with hydrochroma technology. Now the colors you love stay the colors you love. Exclusively at Lowe's.
Find a location near you at chicago-fire.com/youth.
If you have recently suffered an injury or had surgery, let the experts at NovaCare Rehabilitation get you back to an active lifestyle. Our comprehensive programs deliver the highest level of physical therapy, hand therapy, sports medicine, and work health rehabilitation. Our highly skilled therapists develop individualized treatment plans to exceed your expectations. So, don't live in pain. To request an appointment today, visit NovaCare.com. NovaCare, the power of physical therapy.
The blades of a combat chopper spin at 380 RPMs. Not even close to an Echo trimmer. Now that's shock and awe. Power on and on.
Welcome back with the fellas as today's Match Day Primer is presented by Valspar, official paint of the Chicago Fire. And we take a look at the next opponent, the Colorado Rapids, who, yes, gentlemen, they picked up the 3-0 victory over San Jose, their first win in 10 weeks. It ended a 5-game losing streak, but you were not impressed even though they finally won a game.
Well, we watched a lot of the games, and they were difficult to watch. And you know how much we love to watch soccer, but I think it's a team that's really struggled. I mean, they haven't won a game on the road. They really struggled on the run of play to really create any chances. I think a lot of their build-up, when you see, very direct play out of the back from the center backs, they bypass the midfield a lot. I mean, so the challenge is if you do give them space and Badji's on top with Gordon, the thing is that's dangerous. You have to track runners. Gordon is good in the air. He's going to flick everything. They do get the outside backs trying to get forward. They do get a lot of crosses in the box, and when they do get numbers in the box, Paul. And then obviously you have a guy like Gashi that comes centrally, but he doesn't really look to combine. When he gets the ball, his first thing that he has in mind is to cut inside and look to shoot. There's not a shot that he doesn't like. So that's from the offensive side.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you talk about the Rapids, you look at the trade that they made with Minnesota, and you say, what is this team thinking? What do they want to be? They moved Mark Birch. They moved their captain, Sam Cronin. From what I was hearing from sources, it was a trade that didn't go over well with the players on that team, and certainly not with the fans of that team. But why not? Because what's the vision of this team if you don't have players like that can defend and keep things organized? Well, they wanted to play more attacking soccer, and Bismarck Boateng, the player they brought in from Manchester City's system, gets injured right away after that trade. And this is a team that they just don't scare anybody in the midfield. They absolutely don't. And Frank's right. I mean, you watch their game, and everything is just long balls out of the back, direct to the strikers, and it's not a lot of fun to watch. I mean, we got some clips here, and you're going to see this theme about how Colorado plays throughout these clips in this game. If we can take a look here. Just starting off right away, I mean, this is the transition play that we're talking about with Colorado. Very, very quick to win the ball, and then they go right away in transition. Marlon Hairston is a player I think very dangerous with speed, but terrible attempt at finishing there.
Yeah, and obviously here, there was just a quick transition play where Said goes down, and they do get numbers in the box, and that's the one thing you have to worry about. And then obviously, Paul, here, just direct play. They're able to win that second ball, and then obviously just they have runners. Gashi gets lucky a little bit. Everybody, even they're looking for the foul, and then they see the ball popping there and say, let's see what happens, and they score that goal.
And here, good hard work from the forward, but they're only pressing at midfield. And then it's just a transition play, and Badji, look, 20 yards out. That's a quality finish. But that's how Colorado wins games. Mistakes by San Jose. 2 of those goals you can see right there were bad mistakes defensively that lead to goals. And it's just a team that they don't play pretty soccer. They don't make you fear them at all. If you can play with a little bit of depth on the back line to account for Badji's speed, and you can get up and challenge Gordon in the air, have one person go up with him, have one person drop off in case he wins the flick, I think that you feel pretty good about yourself.
I think the Fire should dominate in the middle of the field for sure. And then I think their ability now, if you isolate their wide players with the calm, and I don't know who's going to play. We still have to see if there's going to be some changes. But I think the one thing is that, we talked about for them not to lose their focus and concentration, and how now you have a good performance, and it's important what you do in this next match, because this is one of these games in hand that it's huge to get the 3 points. You should against this team, but we know in this league, you know what I mean, the games are never easy, but on paper, and when we look at this team and we try to analyze this team, it is really a poor team.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it. It's Major League Soccer. We're on TV right now talking about how bad Colorado is, and they could come out tomorrow and play unbelievable soccer. I mean, that's how this league works when you least expect it. So that being said, the Fire have to know that about this league, and they have to come out and play well. They can't come out and say it's the worst team in the league and not worry about it, because this is the type of league where Sporting Kansas City goes to Minnesota and gets beat 2-0 by a Minnesota team that people had a lot of problems with. It happens all the time in this league. You think one team is one way, and they come out one night and they play another.
Yeah, and then look, they do have Tim Howard there, who's one of the best goalkeepers ever, so he's always going to keep you in the match. Their center backs, Watt is an athletic guy. Burling has been playing. He's an experienced guy, doesn't have the pace, but I think if Schober comes back, he changes things. But you never know. They're playing away. They might sit in and look to counter. So I think that the Fire really have to be focused and make sure that they concentrate for 90 minutes.
This is a game, Frank, where you have to put your chances away early. Do not allow a team like Colorado to hang around in the game and be able to strike you once on transition. Because they are capable, if you make a mistake, we saw in the highlights, to pick up the ball and score goals. Gordon has scored a lot of goals in this league.
Well, and they're a team that has given up 5 goals in the last 15 minutes of games, 10 out of 12 goals in the second half. So what that means, I mean, they get stretched as a team, they lose focus, they lose concentration. I don't know if fitness is an issue, but they do give chances away. And the Fire have so much quality, so I do agree with you. Put your chances away, and then you can have a nice, relaxing night.
I'll be interested to see as well. You anticipate a little bit of squad rotation, considering that in the next week, 8 days, you have 3 games. You just played a game against Seattle. I'm not sure yet who will play and who won't. Haven't been out to training this week, haven't talked about Gopanovic, but I would anticipate there's some kind of squad rotation, and anytime that happens, the expectation has to be high for whatever players are stepping into the lineup to not allow a drop-off in performance.
Wouldn't you anticipate more rotation, though, Wednesday? Because 2 reasons. Saturday is a conference game, and also there's a dragon that still needs to be slayed called the Road from the Fire.
Yeah, for sure. The only thing with this, when you're playing at home, there's no travel, you sit at home, you played Saturday, you have an opportunity to recover. But, listen, I think that this team is deep, so I think it's that if you make any changes, they're going to be minimal.
Well, we'll see how many changes are made. Again, this Wednesday, Colorado comes a-calling as the Chicago Fire try to stretch their home unbeaten run to 6 games this season. They'll host the Rapids, 7:30 kick at Toyota Park. It's Pride Night. Should be another warm day. Perfect conditions for the beautiful game. Stick with us. It's Fire Weekly presented by the Private Bank, the official bank of the Chicago Fire. We'll wrap up the show when we come back.
Whoa. You're not taking these.
Hey. You're not taking those.
Whoa. You're not taking that. Come with me.
You're not taking that.
You're not taking that. You're not taking that.
Mom, I'm taking the Subaru.
Don't be late. Even when we're not there to keep them safe, our Subaru Outback will be.
Love. It's what makes a Subaru a Subaru.
Welcome to a new kind of paradise. Universal's Volcano Bay, the water theme park that rises above all others. No standing in long lines, no carrying rafts, no worries. Here, thrills and relaxation flow in perfect harmony. It's one of 3 amazing theme parks and 1 next level vacation.
I'm ready. Are you?
The all-new Volcano Bay, only at Universal Orlando Resort.
Welcome to Elk Grove Village. Our growing industrial park is the largest in North America. It makes sense. We're close to O'Hare, major highways, and rail lines, putting us first class in business class. We appreciate that a strong business park means a high quality of life for village residents. It's what motivates us to be beyond business friendly. Elk Grove Village, makers wanted.
Anyone can fall victim to moving fraud. Know your rights and responsibilities.
We had really signed off on a price, and that was about it.
Without a signed written estimate, movers may try to charge more.
They were charging us now $2,000 instead of the agreed upon $900.
And may hold your items hostage until you pay.
Not only had they roughly handled or mishandled, it seemed like they had purposely destroyed things.
Visit protectyourmove.gov to download a free moving fraud prevention guide. Search for registered movers and view their complaint histories. Move with confidence.
Welcome back to Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank, the official bank of your Chicago Fire. Now we talk more big picture in Major League Soccer play. And they've been the darlings of MLS the last couple of years, but especially the start this year. Toronto, once again, now 6 straight wins. Are they the best team maybe in Major League Soccer right now?
I think so. I think when you talk about the best in MLS, you're talking about Toronto and Dallas. They set the standard in their respective conferences. And, it's funny because early in the season, Toronto, I think, had 4 ties in their first 6 games, just 1 win. And people in Toronto were freaking out. They were talking about Greg Vanney being fired. Kurt Larson, who's always a little bit controversial, wrote a column saying, calm down. This is the way they started last year on the road. 6 straight wins, 22 days they accomplished that. It's one of the longest win streaks in modern MLS history. There were 7 wins by Sporting Kansas City. I mean, it's crazy, but to me, they set the standard.
How quickly things change, But I think when the pressure's on, when you spend that kind of money on 3 DPs, listen, you better put streaks like this together. But Paul is right. I think the expectations are high, but it's been amazing how things can turn so quickly, So you look at that, but I mean, Paul, I also saw like the result Atlanta got, on the road. You go to Portland, and then I think they dominated the game over close to 70% possession away in Portland. I think that's something that we don't see.
Well, a lot of people have been critical of Atlanta of recent. They're talking, Minnesota's playing better than Atlanta right now. It's all switched from the beginning of the season. Well, Atlanta's played 6 of their last 7 games on the road, and they've done it without their top striker, Joseph Martinez, who's been out hurt. They're about to come home and play a few games at home. I think that'll even things out. And with Atlanta, you're going to have to wait till September. They play 5 games at home in a row in the month of September, late in the year. I think that's going to be a huge boost for them. But Atlanta as a team, if we look at the Eastern Conference standings here, I mean, this is a really, really tight race, and Atlanta's right in the thick of it. I mean, outside of Toronto, 25 points. Look at this race now. Columbus on 19 points to Chicago in 6th place on 15 points. 4 points separating second from 6th. And then you look at where the Red Bulls are with 16 points, and it's 6 points separating 5th place from last place in the East. It's crazy.
It's going to be a tight race. You're right. Powers have shifted, I think, to the East. But, I mean, you talk about how unpredictable things are. L.A. goes to New York, faces the Red Bull, and then they win 3-1. But for me, I also want to talk, like the record that the Fire have had at home. They haven't lost a game here over a year. I think the last game that they've lost was against Montreal. We did that game, so talk about that a little bit. And for me, I want to talk about this guy, Nikolic. I mean, 8 goals in 10 games, and I love this quote. He said, I think someone must have asked him after the game, like, you're scoring these goals. The guy goes, I've done this before. I mean, what are you talking about? So for me, it's great to see that, and that's a striker that every game or two, he's on the score sheet, and I think that this guy, the sky's the limit.
Well, I think that might be honestly, one of the more surprising stats I've heard in the last year in MLS, when we heard the Fire have lost once in their last 21 home games across all competitions. That's pretty darn good. I think that's 17 of 18 at home in MLS regular season play. They've been unbeaten, so wins or ties. That's a pretty good home field advantage. I hear a lot of talk about Orlando, all these places. That was a number that stood out to me.
Yeah, and people tend to overreact so much early in the season that there was such a big noise, so much noise about Minnesota struggling or Orlando never losing. Well, all of a sudden, then you hit the road and things start to change a little bit in MLS.
That's why I love the last game. The banners were out, the fans were there, Section 8, Sector Latino were making a noise, so it was great.
Hey, we have to cheers the guy who's usually here and is going to be here next year and is a huge Chicago Fire supporter and a talent in himself and who's done with chemotherapy, celebrating his 60th birthday. Happy birthday.
Freddie,
Freddie, happy birthday, buddy.
Oh, I almost forgot my partner.
Look in the eyes, my friend.
I was worried about the camera.
Oh, you are? Okay.